For KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
We begin this evening with breaking news. Donald Trump is now the first ever former U.S. president to face criminal charges. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A lawyer for Trump says the former president has been indicted by a grand jury in New York on charges involving so-called hush payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign. The specific charges have not yet been made public. Trump's lawyers maintain that the charges are politically motivated, and we'll have more on this story as it develops. Now to the political scandal rocking San Diego County. Nathan Fletcher is resigning his seat on the Board of Supervisors amid accusations of sexual harassment and assault. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says he'll be in office for another 6 weeks.
On Wednesday, Grecia Figueroa, a former Metropolitan Transit System spokesperson, filed a lawsuit against Fletcher. She accuses him of stalking her on social media in 2021 and sexually assaulting her twice last year. She also claims MTS failed to prevent the sexual harassment and engaged in whistleblower retaliation. Her lawsuit says she was abruptly fired on February 6th, the same day Fletcher announced his candidacy for a state Senate seat. Fletcher denies harassing or assaulting Figueroa, but admitted to having a consensual extramarital affair with her. Fletcher is married to Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher, head of the California Labor Federation and a former assembly member. Last weekend, before the lawsuit became public, Fletcher said he was dropping out of the state Senate race and is seeking treatment for PTSD and alcohol abuse. Fletcher's resignation is effective May 15th. Since he only just began his second four-year term, his departure will likely trigger a special election. The remaining supervisors can appoint Fletcher's successor, but they're evenly split between Democrats and Republicans and may struggle to agree on a replacement. His district includes most of central San Diego, as well as La Mesa and Lemon Grove. When would a special election take place? That's also up to the remaining supervisors. They could save money by waiting until the presidential primary election on March 5th of next year, but that would leave constituents without representation for almost a year. An off-cycle election would fill the seat sooner, but would likely see lower voter turnout. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
It's Major League Baseball's opening day, and expectations are higher than they've ever been for the San Diego Padres. The first game of the season was delayed due to the wet weather, but fans are still packing into Petco Park. And KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer joins live from outside the stadium. Jacob, what's it like out there?
The weather still isn't great, Maya, but as you can see behind me, fans are still finding their way into their seats. This comes after an offseason where the Padres spent some serious money to further improve their roster after a deep 2022 playoff run. And all the fans that we talked to said this is the Padres' year to win it all. Hours before the game time, fans were crowding into the team store and gathering at local restaurants and bars to celebrate this new season. We spoke with some families and friends who got the day off, and in some cases even traveled hours to watch their favorite team. And we even heard from the players who aren't faced by the high expectations.
You just got to play baseball. There's no pressure for us. The pressure is for them. They got to beat us, so we're just going to go out there and play hard.
We're excited, we're pumped, and I feel like this is our year.
World Series, baby.
Yeah, all the way.
World Series, all the way. All the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
city's excited. We're here for them. Yeah, they're going all the way.
The Padres kick off the season against the Colorado Rockies tonight, and this Saturday there will be an opening weekend block party in the gas lamp ahead of the game. The Padres are expecting sellout crowds for almost all of the home games this season, so even if you're not able to make it out for opening weekend, you will have an electric crowd pretty much all season long. Reporting live from downtown, Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And it's a big weekend for San Diego sports fans. Coming up, we check in with the Aztec men's basketball team as they prepare for the Final Four game in Houston. North County residents got a bit of a jolt this morning when the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for Valley Center. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has the details.
A cold front pushed a strong cell of thunderstorms through San Diego County about 10:30 this morning. The sky outside Valley Center's Country Feed and Pet Store got very dark.
A lot of very, very cold, haily water mix, hail and water, and downpour probably for 10, 15 minutes, and then it kind of slow down, and then came second run again.
The National Weather Service says a low-pressure system off the coast of California brought steady rain to the region yesterday, and today it pushed some strong storm cells through the North County.
We've been watching those, and some of them have a little bit of spin in them, and we were monitoring that, and it looks like one of them, kind of near Valley Center, had some rotation in it. So we decided to issue that tornado warning just based on that weak rotation that we saw on the radars.
The tornado warning was only active for about 10 minutes. It was the first one seen in the county since 2016. But Valley Center school officials moved kids away from the windows at the elementary school anyway. The San Diego County tornado warning comes after a tornado rumbled into the Los Angeles suburb of Montebello. The twister there briefly touched down in an industrial park, injuring one person and causing damage.
Behind these storm systems, it's colder. The atmosphere kind of has more, more or less moisture with it. And some severe weather elements as well, some instability.
Tornadoes usually happen when a body of cold, dry air mixes with warmer, humid air and creates a rotation in the clouds. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A benefit drag show was canceled at the last minute after a veiled threat was made to the bar where the event was being held. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne spoke to the event organizers about their decision.
400 tickets had been sold for the Disney Edition Drag Takeover benefit show being held at the Belly Up in Solana Beach.
It's our largest fundraiser for our free family festival for Pride by the Beach, which is hosted on June 3rd this year. So we were expected to, we were about $10,000 in on this fundraiser.
Lisa Nava is the Director of Operations for the North County LGBTQ Resource Center. She says this would have been the fourth benefit drag show the center puts on, but it was the first they were forced to cancel.
Earlier in the day, we became aware of a YouTube video. I did then send that YouTube video to our local police department that we work very closely with, Oceanside Police Department, and then they forwarded it on to the sheriffs.
Nava says the video, which has since been taken down, made no direct threat to the center or the performers, but it did say something had been planted at the Belly Up.
At the end of the YouTube video, it said, we've already put things at the venue. We didn't know what those things were. It didn't directly say this was a bomb or anything like that, but the sheriffs took that seriously.
The Belly Up closed for the day while SWAT teams searched for any threats, but found nothing.
We just decided in an abundance of caution that regardless of what the SWAT team would find there, that it was not the right night to do this. The day after the Nashville shooting.
On Monday, a shooter killed 6 people at Nashville's Covenant Christian School before being killed by police.
Move.
Nava says the cancellation at the Belly Up is an example of how drag queens and cultural arts performers are suffering right now nationwide.
They're going into venues afraid of what might happen, and we didn't want to put anybody in that position for an abundance of caution.
But Nava says the show will go on, and this is a community that won't be shut out again.
We're not going to let fear dictate how we operate every day. But I have to say, Tanya, that in this climate, it is changing the way we do business and how we're thinking about where we're going to go and what spaces we're in. There's just no getting around that because our safety is critical.
The Belly Up and North County LGBTQ Resource Center are meeting to set a future date for the benefit drag show ahead of Oceanside's Pride by the Beach in June. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
New legislation was introduced to end a 7-year ban on state-funded travel to states with laws that California deems discriminatory against LGBTQ people. The bill would end the ban and replace it with advertising campaigns in those states that would promote inclusion and acceptance. The current ban includes 23 states seen listed on your screen and applies to state agencies, departments, and schools in the California university system. Palomar Health's Poway Medical Center has been delivering babies for more than 45 years. But in just a few months, those services are being stopped and moved to Escondido. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman has a look at why and what's next.
Poway Medical Center opened in 1977, and at one point, more than 3,500 babies were being born there every year. But that number has been dropping. And now Palomar health officials say it's closer to 800 a year, or about 2 newborns per day.
Unfortunately, the volume of births at Poway has diminished significantly.
Palomar Health CEO Diane Hansen says around 2 births per day in Poway just isn't financially sustainable for the health system. She also says the birthing unit was in need of upgrades.
Without, it being viable and sustainable from a financial standpoint, it doesn't make sense to make that investment until we know that we're going to have the volume to support it.
The birthing center is set to close in early June. Palomar health officials say the services will then be transferred to their Escondido hospital.
Part of this challenge has just been in staffing 2 units individually. That's the challenge. It's the staffing, it's the sustainability from a financial perspective. It's, how do we use our facilities and our resources much smarter than we have in the past, maybe. I'm not willing to say that we will never have OB again in Poway. I would love in the future for us to have the opportunity to reintroduce OB services in Poway. It just right now is not sustainable.
Palomar Health's chief nurse executive, Melvin Russell, says the 2 physicians that drive the majority of births in Poway will be moving up to Escondido. He says everyone from the labor and delivery unit has an opportunity to stay with Palomar Health, whether that's training for another unit or moving up to Escondido.
Many of those nurses are going to be coming straight across the 15, down the 15 to the Escondido campus. No missing their time as a Palomar Health employee. Just transitioning one day, I'm going to work here. And the next day, I'm going to work here at a different facility.
Nurses in Poway are represented by the California Nurses Association. Their chief representative is Susan Adams, who is also a labor and delivery nurse in Escondido. She says the unit was caught off guard by the unexpected closure announcement earlier this year. Adams is happy to see that Palomar health officials are giving staff an opportunity to stay with the company, but she does worry about the extra drive for expecting mothers that will have to go to Escondido. It's about 11 miles away from Poway, and Adams says that distance can have a huge impact.
It's further away, and that's always a concern. We'll probably see a few more stop and drops on the freeway, that is women giving birth before they arrive to us, because we're that much further away.
Palomar Health CEO says the labor and delivery department in Poway might not be going away for good, but Adams has questions about that.
But I'm just concerned that if they think it might come back, what are all the hoops that the hospital system will have to go through to get it back? I think once they close it, I don't know. It seems to me that it's really hard to get the wheels rolling again.
Paradise Valley Hospital in National City closed their labor and delivery department back in mid-2021, also citing a drop in demand. Hansen says many hospitals are having to make tough financial decisions right now.
Unfortunately, that's just the story of today. As health systems struggle and try to maintain, some financial viability, these are the decisions, unfortunately, that have to be made.
Hansen says in Poway, they're investing in a new intensive care unit and expanding the emergency department. She says those are the most in-demand services there, but it's not certain that everyone who was going to have their babies in Poway will want to go to Escondido.
That is always the risk. The idea, again, is to provide the same experience that they had at Poway at the Escondido campus.
Hansen says Palomar Health has also lost several medical staff over the last few years in Poway, and recruiting new physicians there has been challenging. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The city of San Diego has closed Choyus Lake Park for a total of 4 weeks since January. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson explains why and how it's impacting Southeast San Diegans.
Come here, just me and my mom get out of the house because my dad passed away back in 2018. And so I have a lot of memories here in Choyus Lake.
Choyus Lake Park offers accessible outdoor space for neighbors like Ellsworth Hicks Jr., who says he comes a few times each week.
Yeah, this is like my social interaction, you know, especially since COVID.
But in recent rainy months, his routine has been thrown off.
Me and my mom would come cruise by here, and all of a sudden there's a sign, and the gates are closed.
Even on sunny days, this sometimes plays on the park's voicemail.
Today, the park is closed due to unsafe trail conditions.
Ranger Naja Lyon says that's because wet ground causes access issues. Choyus Lake doesn't have paved roads, and unlike most San Diego city parks, it lacks indoor facilities.
Because if we can't get emergency vehicles around the park and to some of the areas that are more hazardous, it just creates another safety concern.
Historically, Southeast San Diego has been park poor compared to San Diego's wealthier neighborhoods. And a 2021 city recreation audit found that parks in Southeast San Diego had half the number of programs of the parks in areas to the north and west. Lyon says they do plan to improve the walking trail, and they're currently installing some lighting. For now, Hicks and his neighbors brace for more rain and closed park gates. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Storm system responsible for our turbulent weather, the rain, the severe thunderstorms, the mountain snow. That'll be pulling out tonight, and we will see improving conditions, so we'll start to dry it out. And then for Friday and Saturday, it'll be dry and a little bit warmer each day, but then changes come over the weekend. We'll see the cooling return on Sunday to the coast and in the interior valleys as the marine layer starts to come in, the onshore flow. And then stronger winds early next week, much cooler, and a few showers around. Another storm system approaching. Overnight tonight, clouds will break up as we dry it out, down to 50 in the metro. Looking at temperatures around the area, Ramona is down to 37, Oceanside's 43, and Mount Laguna is down to 28 degrees. Here's the way it looks on our future cast. Any showers will be diminishing this evening, and there you can see how we dry it out later tonight. And then for tomorrow, should be a drier day, just a couple of clouds around. Here's a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Clouds and sunshine, temperatures hovering in the lower 60s, San Diego to Oceanside, mid-60s Escondido. Mount Laguna hits 40, Borrego Springs hits 72. Looking ahead to the weekend, looks pretty nice here on Saturday. Should be dry and comfortable. But then on Sunday, we start to see the changes. The onshore flow returns, clouds a little bit cooler here. And then that next vigorous system approaches early next week. It'll be cool and breezy. You can't rule out a shower or two. Take you to the inland areas. Looks nice into Saturday, a little bit cooler on Sunday, then much cooler and breezy early next week. Shower in the vicinity. In the mountains, temperatures on the rise into Sunday, then it gets windy and much colder. And then as we head our way to the deserts, we'll see some gradual warming into Sunday. And then Monday and Tuesday, increasingly windy and much cooler. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Well, the weather in Houston is windy and warm, but it's red hot inside NRG Stadium tonight. That's where the San Diego State men's basketball team is preparing for a showdown in the NCAA Final Four this weekend. KPBS reporter MG Perez is there and brings us the story.
The Aztecs are in action.
Together on three. 1, 2, 3. Together.
This is the room where it happens. Houston's NRG Stadium is so big it dwarfs the historic Astrodome that it replaced. There are 72,000 seats that will be filled Saturday night as the San Diego State men's basketball team tries to eliminate Florida Atlantic.
Here with the elevated court, just March Madness everywhere, Final Four logos everywhere, it's insane.
You certainly realize that it's still just a basketball court, even though it's in the middle of such a big arena. You know, it's just still 94 feet, 2 hoops, so
As the NCAA slogan goes, the road ends here in Houston, which turns out to be familiar territory for some members of the Aztec team. Houston is named after one of the most controversial and colorful figures in Texas history. General Sam Houston pointed troops to victory and independence from Mexico. Jason Ledee grew up here and tried to tell his teammates what to expect.
It's awesome. I mean, real Southern, real laid back. I always tell everybody, they try to get me to explain Houston to them. I'm like, but it's a feel. Like, you got to go there and really feel it out. I can't really explain it to you.
Aztecs forward Aguic Arap and his family escaped to Houston 20 years ago as refugees from the war-torn African nation of Sudan.
This is where it all started, and knowing they left everything, came to a foreign land with a foreign language, and willing to sacrifice all that just for the opportunity for their children to have a better life. And so, being here back in Houston, I can't help but think about my parents.
Come Saturday, the brackets and basketball will matter most. For now, these players are enjoying the Southern hospitality.
Yeah, overall, it's just been a great city. They've been treating us well. So,
can we get a yeehaw?
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw!
In Houston, MG Perez, KPBS News.
And if you're looking to catch a movie this weekend, there are plenty of big Hollywood releases, but KPBS film critic Beth Accomando would like to steer your attention away from the flashy offerings to two unique cinematic experiences.
If John Wick Chapter 4 represents cinema at its kinetic, adrenaline-pumping best, then Innis Men exists at the opposite end of the spectrum with its slow, haunting tale. But I absolutely love both films. They represent the wild cinematic diversity I adore. But Innis Men may only be in theaters this weekend before hitting streaming platforms. And the few theaters willing to show it have put up showtimes, then pulled them, which proves how difficult it can be for indie films. But Innis Men deserves the sacredness of a cinema space to fully appreciate its transcendent qualities. Mark Jenkins' Innis Men has the trappings of a folk horror film, but then leaves those elements behind like layers of sedimentary rock for you to excavate later. It feels like a pandemic film in how isolated its main character is on a tiny, uninhabited Cornish island. That backdrop allows for much contemplation and for themes of loss and grief to emerge. But time is fluid here. You're never sure what's past, present, or future. They all exist on a strange plane that sometimes feels real, sometimes nightmarish, and sometimes poetic.
Do you like it here on your own?
I'm not on my own.
Shot on 16mm film stock, Innis Men itself feels lost in time and arrives like a found artifact. It's hypnotic and beguiling, with the visuals as compelling as the sound design. Its pace and deliberate ambiguity mean it's not for everyone. But if you want something unique and boldly original, then I urge you to seek this one out. And speaking of 16mm, Michael Aguirre of See It on 16 returns to Digital Gym Cinema on Saturday to share another one of his glorious 16mm film prints. He arrives with his own projector, sets up inside the micro cinema, and projects films like Night of the Living Dead. The projector noise may annoy some, but to me, it's a happy purr that reminds me I'm watching a piece of film that's been around for decades and traveled to different theaters before arriving here. Aguirre will share a secret Wes Craven movie. The title, likely a horror film, will only be revealed when it unspools off the projector on Saturday.
So I compare it to like listening to a record, like an original record. There's hiss, there's pops. It's not perfect, but that experience of seeing it on film, on the big screen, it's a magical feeling that you really cannot get anywhere else these days. I truly believe that it's a special event anytime that film is able to be projected onto a big screen.
It's a wonderful reminder of how film is meant to be enjoyed as part of a community of strangers sitting in the dark and all reacting to a story being told, just like people have been doing for centuries. But instead of the glow of a fire to gather around, we have flickering images on a screen to enthrall us. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, former President Donald Trump indicted over hush money payments to cover up an alleged affair. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at today's top stories. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is resigning amid accusations of sexual harassment and assault. Fletcher says it was a consensual affair that he regrets and that he would resign effective on May 15th after he completes treatment for PTSD and alcohol abuse. The remaining 4 county supervisors can appoint Fletcher's replacement, but they're evenly split between Republicans and Democrats, meaning the likeliest scenario is a special election. And we are a little over an hour from first pitch on opening day at Petco Park, the Padres' first game of the season against the Colorado Rockies. That was delayed because of the wet weather, but fans still came out in force. They're hoping the team can build off of its playoff run last season. This Saturday, there will be an opening weekend block party in the Gas Lamp. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will be following the latest developments in the indictment of former President Trump on criminal charges in New York. And a new proposal to ban homeless encampments is causing a stir in San Diego County. KPBS Roundtable is diving into the issue with a panel of journalists. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: